Boom, 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 boom. Okay. I hope this is... Okay, we're going to test this out real quick. So, hello.
I hope this is... Okay, we're going to test this out real quick.
Okay, yeah, you can hear me. Okay. Gracious. Well, howdy, hi. Hope you are enjoying your... If it's Saturday morning, your Saturday morning. I am... Not that I'm not. I'm just gotta eat right now. Could be a lot worse, could be a lot better. I need a pen. Where's my pen? For marking things. There we go. Kapow. Alright. I don't know, it just feels like a bit of a groggy Saturday morning, so... Anyways, I hope people are doing well. Slight recap. They were making their way from the tower. So they are making their way from the Great Bridge of Pareo and the guard tower there to make their way to Sameen. So they're pretty close. Sameen is within an eyesight, and they just woke up to basically get there. So we've got 3 chapters we're going to go through, and this is going to be the 3... I think there's about, let's see, we're on page 351, and there are 432 pages, so there's 81 pages, so we're going to do about half of that today, and then the next Sunday, unfortunately, because I work next week Saturday, I will read the rest of it. We will finish it up, and then and then the following week we'll start on a book I haven't touched in 5 years. We'll actually go through Saedra here, and I am not looking forward to this. This one's a bit more, this one a bit rougher. So, yeah. It is what it is. So, alright, we are going to start on chapter 31 here, at the gates of Sameen. What were made solely of wood, the homes and buildings slowly morphed more and more into stone the closer they got to Sameen. Sloppy and uneven, the stones first appeared, clumped together haphazardly. Yet, as the party neared the city, the more firm, the more uniform, the more resolute in their presentation those homes became. The main road hardened into smoother stones with far fewer instances of missing portions and uneven sections, while guiding the group to the eastern gates opening of the outer walls. The walls, made from similar stones used in Faladne, absorbed the warm hues of the approaching dusk, protruding proudly from the surface like a cliffside defying the cold sea waters. Sameen's walls called to its neighboring people, the mountainscape to its direct north, and to the capital to its south beyond the horizon. It offered a promise that, within its protective shelter, safety from the natural troubles lurking near would not be of any concern. However, the group were only able to peek into the city through the gate before them and gaze above at the wall's parapets. The breast of the city was shielded from the wilds of the surrounding nature and their prying eyes. At the gaping mouth of the eastern opening, streams of people and carts were vomiting out onto the southern side of the road, while inhaling nearly the same amount at a much slower pace through the northern portion. Like a window, the opening revealed more of the same, but claustrophobic from the weight of the towering buildings and the general busyness of Sameen's citizens, waving goodbye to friends and family, or waiting for the arrival of others at the entrance. The proximity of the ocean heightened the watery bite in the air as it broke through Sameen's protective walls with ease. Pale wisps of breath twisted into nothingness as many people curled themselves into a tighter form as though the cold itself weighed upon them. Some, however, felt none of those shackles while lively chattering and moving about like a group of children who'd recently invented a new game to play. For Jaharl, the cold prodded his tired body along. Each time the line lurched forward, he groaned and grumbled to himself and found a new patch of dirt to thrust his spear into, while listening to the prattle from his group and the others around him. Despite his best efforts, his ears picked up on random words and phrases, which immediately morphed into sounds that followed their own direction, their own flow, birthing a fleeting song in his head. He winced as he tried to block out the noise. Hungry? The momentary grimace did not escape his friend's eyes. He flashed a smile for as briefly as he could muster. Not quite. But something warm would set me good for bed. Hopefully that won't be too much trouble, but this is taking forever. She peeked ahead of the few people in front of them. From the sounds of it, we might have some issues. His eyes bounced from his feet to Malam, who was staring at two tall statues of Saedra. Two tall statues of Saedra perched atop of the walls, one on each side of the eastern gate. You're certain your family can't offer us lodging tonight? Regrettably, they'll probably wish to figure out what happened from me directly and no one else. They can be quite distrusting of strangers. They may think you are trying to use me for ulterior motives. I could try to convince them, but the Saemenian held back a sneeze before turning his attention fully toward Jaharl. Find a place for tonight and come by tomorrow. I'll hopefully have them convinced enough to thank you properly then. At the front of the group, Ripson turned his head to comment. That'll be fine. I know a place we can stay. We'll go there once we return to you to your family. Malam's eyes widened as he leaned forward. Oh, where's that? I may not know all about all of the lodgings in the city, but I can certainly ask my parents to suggest a more suitable place for tonight. Don't bother. The monk faced forward. It's a surprise. Malam's expression soured as he stared at the back of the monk's bald head. I guess playfulness isn't entirely lost on an old grouch like yourself. Ripson smirked, but remained focused on the gate looming ahead of them. A lot of things aren't. Jarl stifled a chuckle as the group moved forward toward the gate guards. He gazed at the pair of statues. A chill ran up his spine. Trying to discern whether or not they were staring back at him, he leaned to his right before leaning to his left, keeping his eyes trained on the stony figures above. Are you all right? Josephine mirrored the Mahrian as he tilted one direction and then the other. As he tilted one direction and then the other again. I'm trying to figure out something about those two up there. He waved a finger at the pair of statues. Ah, I see. Do you think a goddess like Saedra would look like that? He squinted. I can't tell, but honestly, what the gods and goddesses look like isn't something I dwell on. The old woman let out a grumble. He certainly avoided answering my question with those words. You want me to lie and say any answer that leaps from my tongue? No, but it's not lying to give it some thought. Also, I don't need you to blurt out anything that comes to mind. I have my husband for that. She massaged her husband's shoulder as he softly patted her hand. And I'd be hurt equally as well if I went up there and spoke with those twin statues of stone myself. He squeezed his wife's hand in place before letting go. Tamelia shot a look at her friend as she leaned close to him. Did he hit you on the head, or did he hit his head or something? I thought he and Ripson weren't able to tell jokes. Jarl snorted before whispering back, like a crop out of season. She chuckled and shook her head as the group moved up to meet with the guards, who guided them to a spot off to the side. The tallest of the three looked over the six. Bit of a motley crew you have here. We are as you see us. The farmer planted his feet in place, his eyes locked with the guards. Care to explain what that means, or would a night or two camping outside Samin's walls make you talk more plainly? The guard returned Dieter's stare in kind. The line of a crooked smile appeared on the farmer's weathered face. My wife and I are from the farmlands south of River Split and south of Clohall. The burly fellow here is a brother of Atumu in the monastery near Walleran. The young one here is Malam from this very city. As for a citizen of the Sami, so young and traveling with what amounts to strangers? The guard leaned forward to study the boy. He stepped forward with steely intent in his gaze. Yes, sir. The middle-aged man scratched at his fuzzy beard below his ear. Where do you live, Malam of Sami? Without hesitation, the boy answered unwaveringly. The Linderite district. Oh, that's a different direction for a lie. A lie? What does that mean? And lie? And what's that mean? Malam's voice stabbed defiantly at the guard. The leader continued as the other guards snorted at the upstart's behavior. Which gang are you working with? Gang? Malam recoiled back as though the word had physically struck him. My father will hear of this. The Redicant family does not appreciate accusations, especially against their only son. Throwing out the name of a family isn't some identification. Does simply saying King Quentin make me a part of the court? He watched as Ripson stepped closer, with his muscled arm extended outward, offering the hilt of Malam's rapier. You use that to pick at your teeth, monk? Only when I'm bored. Here's the boy's rapier. Perhaps this will help his claim. The guard grabbed the sword and examined it from the pommel to tip. As he twisted his wrist to study its proportions, he stopped as he caught sight of some engravings. He mouthed what he was reading and realized Malam's name was etched into the sword's handguard. Hey, Leader turned to the other guards. Go fetch Treka. She'll have a better idea about this than me. While this is being sorted out, Malam, and you, monk, what was your name? Ripson. You and the boy will have a chat with Treka and some of the men in the gatehouse here. While I figure out the business with the rest of you have. The pair of guards saluted, and one disappeared through the gate into the city. The other motioned for Malam and Ripson to follow into the structure nearby. Once they were away, the leader turned to the remaining four. He rubbed his forehead with an open hand. All right, they're going to be busy with them, so tell me again, who are you? My name is Dieter. This is my wife, Josephine. We are from the farmland south of Clohall. The farmer gestured to the younger pair. These two are Jaharl and Tamelia. They are from Mahri. The guard's eyes darted to each person as they were mentioned. He jerked his head back for a moment before taking an energetic interest in the pair from Mahri. He enthusiastically clapped his gloved hands together. By the blessed light followed. Welcome to Samin, the city touched by the Holy Mother Saedra. You have finally arrived. We were concerned the war with Altea was going to stop you, but truly, the goddess has shined her light through our present dark uncertainty. And blessed is this motley crew who have aided in your journey here. Jarl could not discern much more of what was being said as the guard's speech continued. The sounds became needles piercing his ears and falling into his body. Sharp pains clawed at the center of his chest, struggling to burst free. The tightening grip of his friend, as her fingers dug into his arm, felt distant. Rattled, he stiffly turned to Tamelia. He read it in her eyes. The same bewilderment, the same rising torment was swelling up inside. Where are they? Where? For all the honey in the hive, are they? Where? Those are all mental thoughts. Are you two all right? The guard stepped toward the pair, only to be greeted by Josephine hopping to their aid. She gave the two a smile and placed a reassuring hand on their shoulders before pivoting to face the guard. They're just relieved to be here after such a long journey. Pirail isn't the Colgan Sea, it's... I apologize for interrupting, but... with war so near and trouble all around, each step stretches ever longer. We were even attacked by the Saul. A ripple of murmurs, like a thrown stone disrupting a pond, spread outward from the group. The guard frowned as he motioned for two of his compatriots to quiet the surrounding people. As they did so, he pulled out a chunk of charcoal and a small rectangular stack of tough parchment bound in the top center by a single knotted piece of twine from a satchel off to the side. Care to explain this attack? Josephine recounted the ordeal quickly, adding in the details that occurred near the Great Bridge of Pirail. She watched as the tall guard provided little in the way of reactions to hint at his feelings as he jotted down notes. When she reached the end of her account, she stepped back to line up beside Jarl and Tamilia. Anything you two like to add? They exchanged a glance, and both answered with a leadened no. Fair enough. The leading guard pointed a gloved hand off to the side, at a spot slightly beyond the gate, still on the outside of the city walls. Stand over there, I'll be back in a moment. The four shifted over to the location they were told to stand and watched as the line leading into Saemin eroded to only a few, while the waning moments of daylight became fewer and fewer. The group, though annoyed with the wait, remained quiet until the guard returned. Neither Jaharo nor Tamilia could muster a word to say or think, and the elderly couple refrained from further complicating their younger companions' mental turmoil. The sentry returned with a wide grin, presenting two sashes, one of dark blue and one of bright yellow, to the Mahrian pair. Forgive me for not saying this before, but my name is Garrig, one of the captains here at the Eastern Gate. What are these for? Jarl pointed at the sashes being offered to him. They are yours. They are what mark you as those who are following the path of Katos and Olea. The young man accepted the dark blue fabric and passed the yellow one to his friend. Are we to wear these all the time? But of course, how else will anyone know you've come to the beckoning of our great goddess, our collective birth mother? Don't be shy. Help each other tie it on. Love between two on such a holy task. It's a noble deed, and you two should not fear expressing it. Come on now. With Garrick's goading as their rallying call, Jarl and Tamilia helped each other bear the mark of Katos and Olea. Jarl tossed a sash over his shoulder and took hers once it was offered. Avoiding the dirt, he kept most of her fabric in his left hand as he placed his own right hand around her waist. He brought his left arm around from the other side and grabbed the remaining fabric with his left hand. Once he brought the other end around, he tied the extra length of the sash together into a loose bow at her hip above her sheath. Tamilia did much the same, but by now the guard's provocations had ceased. As she tied the sash, her eyes, glassed over with tears, locked with his. His remained dry. Instinctually, he pulled her to him and held her close. He said nothing as she hugged him, slowly squeezing tighter and tighter. He freed a hand and touched the side of her head, while his head with her head. He freed a hand and touched the side of her head with his. Yeah, I'm gonna have to fix that sentence. Fix. Note. All right. Other than their breathing, they only nodded assurances to each other in an unspoken language only the pair of them could understand. Suddenly, Garrett closed the gap between him and the two and clapped a heavy hand on both of them, causing them to jump with a jolt. My apologies, but it's great to see affection expressed beyond the lips and loins. However, we must turn to a more immediate business matter. Pass us your weapons. You'll be free to wait for your friends inside. Our weapons? Tamilia clutched at her sword, deftly brushing her sash's bow to the side. Yeah, you didn't think you'd be welcome to stride in strapped to the teeth with spears, swords, and the like, did you? Garrett glanced at the weapons they were all carrying. Almost as if by command, from his glance, they piled them in front of him. When he noticed the young woman hesitating, he offered an explanation to ease her concerns. You'll be given the proper documentation here to present once you leave to take the blessing back home. We're not going to keep them. Blazes. Barely have enough room for our own things as it is. Fine. Reluctantly, she unfastened her sheath and carefully set it and the blade still sheathed within with the others. My buckler, too? Nah, you can keep it. Makes for an odd fashion choice, but no one will arrest you for it. Thanks. She picked at the straps for a moment, lost in... Thanks. She picked at the straps for a moment, lost in other, more pressing thoughts. All right, I'll be back with what you need here in a few moments. Garrick dipped his head toward the weapons as he called for two other guards to collect them. The trio soon disappeared into the gatehouse. Immediately after they entered into the structure, short and sharp steps punctuated the air as boots clicked each time they greeted Stone, as though they were warning anyone of the wearer's approach. Dressed in heavy robes of cotton dyed yellow, she looked like a flower refusing to fully bloom in the cold, particularly with night's arrival so near. Her long brown hair bounced on her shoulders with every step, but her hazel eyes remained fixated on the gatehouse door as she darted inside. "This ought to be important. Having me come out here so close to dusk with all I need to do as it is, this better be good." Treka quickly glanced around the room, her mouth bunched off to one side. In the center, a long wooden table stood, with Malam and Ripson sitting at opposite ends. Malam's rapier and Ripson's iron-studded club had been placed on the table. Garrick stood on the opposite side of the room by a door that led to a storage area, where a set of stairs descended some ways below. Not too far from him, and some steps behind the monk, a few guards stood about, somewhat confused about what the two travelers were doing in here. "Can't be letting in more of those troublemakers, and this one?" Garrick sharply pointed a heavy finger at Malam. "This one claims to live in the Linderit district. One of the Redicant family? One of the Redicant family. Malam. The Redicant family only has one son. He was reported to have left Sameen some time ago. Records ought to confirm that information." She turned to the boy. "Well, anything to add to that?" He nodded furiously. "My rapier bears my name as well. And yes, that's correct. Are you friends with Baldolphus and Mahala? Your mother and father?" "Only by name." She watched as Malam's brightening expression dampened. "I don't mean that negatively. I'm simply in charge of Linderit for taxes and other purposes. Can't simply have all that information gathering dust on tomes and ink. Does the dust settle in your head instead?" Ripson stood firm while Garrick and the other guards stifled their laughter. Treka grumbled as she opened her robe, revealing a pouch covered in feathers as she had tied to her thigh. Her fingers expertly undone the knot of twine that enclosed the pouch and retrieved a stone that fit in the palm of her hand. "Here, take this, Malam." She held up the stone and offered it to the guard to inspect, but he only nodded in approval from a distance. Once given the clear, she handed it directly to the boy. "We've been introducing these lately to help clean up the messes we've observed recently." Malam studied the round stone that had been painted yellow. At its center had an intricate symbol carved into it, which he ran his thumb over. "What's this about? Why only me?" Before she could answer, the leading guard rattled his spear. "That's sheltered in Linderit, huh?" "Perhaps I am." Malam lobbed the stone in the air and snatched it with a deft quickness. He noticed a disapproving look from Treka and sheepishly bent his head down while gripping the rock tightly. He slowly turned to the lead guard. "Sorry, I'm sorry. What is your name?" He shucked on a tooth before answering. "Why, gonna have Mommy and Daddy get me reprimanded?" "Less that and more my father would probably like to thank the man responsible for seeing to it that his only son entered Sameen without trouble instead of allowing him to wallow outside the city walls for a night or two, I imagine." Malam leaned back in the chair. "I am Garrick, captain here at the Eastern Gate." He let out a belch and ignored the nasty look he received from Treka. "If your father is as courtesy-bound as you paint him to be, I'll personally extend his gratitude." "Understood." "Perfectly so." "Good." The guard gestured toward the club and rapier. "We'll keep a hold of that rapier until he does. Only fair." "Only fair indeed." Malam squinted at Garrick as the two guards who collected weapons left through the door the lead guard stood near before turning back to face Treka. "And why only me again?" She stopped adjusting her robe and flashed a smile. "That's your proof you're a citizen in the district I'm responsible for. Don't present it when questioned by any of the guards, and they'll likely arrest you till we figure out whether you live here or need more accommodating lodgings at the quarry." Ribson crossed his arms. "And why only him and not me? Those two Marines out there, Jahar and Tamelia, they aren't too much older than Malam." The taxwoman bristled at the monk's interjection. You're certainly no growing sprout. The other two old ones, if they're who I think I saw with the two you're probably referring to, are old enough as well. We won't be mixing you up with any young troublemakers. As for the two younger ones, it looked like Garrick already. Yeah, I already gave it to him, the guard interjected. She stared blankly at a portion of the wall before directing her attention to the monk again. See? If that's all, I'll be on my way. The woman bowed curtly before darting for the door. A moment, Treka, Ripson bellowed, attracting puzzling looks from everyone else in the room. She jumped with a shudder, stopped, and slowly turned around. Poorly holding back a contemptuous glare, she pivoted to face the room, and more specifically, the monk. Had to wait until I started to go outside. Make it quick, I am a busy woman. Remaining seated, he pointed at her leg. Your pouch, can I see it again? My. Are you certain that's all you'd like to see? A sultry smirk briefly crossed her face as she ran her fingers across the front of her blouse before twisting her hip to show Ripson a clearer view of the feathered pouch. Did you hunt those yourself? I did, and still do when I'm afforded time. I think I see some hawk feathers. Kestrel as well, correct? Her demure expression grew stale. Yes, that's correct. Why? He shook his head. Oh, nothing in particular. I was simply wondering if there are any owl feathers on that satchel of yours. Owls? She snorted, dispelling a smirk that was forming on her face. No, they're not a bird I generally hunt. Why's that? She turned her head to catch sight of the guards returning. There are other creatures I have my eyes set on. A bird that keeps to itself isn't much of a... how to put it? It's not much of a challenge. Regardless, take care. I have to return to my work. Of course. The monk slightly cocked his head to the right and bowed sarcastically. Thank you. She tightened her robes around her body and began to leave the gatehouse. She called out loudly without looking back. If you want to know more, monk, I'm certain Garrick will give you all the information you need. The guard stared at the back of the woman as she left the building. Not sure what all she thinks I know, but here. To Ripson, he handed him a rectangular block presenting carvings on each of its sides, as well as a parchment with their names and weapons listed on it. The monk studied the object as quickly as he was able. Aren't you concerned somebody could replicate this? Garrick smirked. Woe to those who try, and I'll leave it at that. Without any further objections, the guard led the pair out of the building. Motioning for the 4 other travelers who had remained outside to follow, he guided the 6 through the portcullis and used the butt of his spear as a pointer, gesturing straight ahead. Not tonight, but take the main road and you'll eventually reach Saedra's gate on the western side of the city. There's a short road leading to Saedra's shrine. Rest is up to you. Before he had a chance to step away, Ripson caught his attention and pulled him out of earshot of the group. I have a question, but would also like to extend my gratitude. I am grateful you are so thorough in your duties. Garrick looked the monk up and down, squinting as he did so. I'll take the appreciation, I guess. I mean it. All right, I believe you. Good. Now, what would it take to learn more about Treka? You could have led with that. The guard laughed hard from his gut. A snake charmer she is. Best to meet her with a thrust of a dagger than a thrust from the hips. I don't have that sort of intention. The monk shook his head. A smile curled to one side of Garrick's face. No, of course not. Believe me or don't, I don't care. I have more questions for her that require privacy. Garrick's laughter came again, but more as a chuckle than anything hearty. She'll be more than disappointed that a man looking like yourself would only want to trade words with her. Anything that warrants a laugh? No concern for an official of Samine? For all you know, I could be some brute. You look the part, at least. The guard leaned closer to look past the monk and eyes traveling companions. But you travel with a group like that. As you wanted to harm some woman, that young one from Mahri would have done the trick, I'd say. I'm not that sort of man. And Perail is better for it. Garrick patted the monk on the arm before continuing. As for Treka, she lives not too far from the barracks here. Go down the first small road that splits from the main one and heads north. After a quick prayer or two, you'll come to a dead end which directly leads to her villa. It's walled up and gated, but ring the bell 3 times and she's liable to poke her head out from the balcony. And if she doesn't, try again another. Garrick shrugged. Try again another day. She's either there or not. But with this new responsibility of hers, she usually stays home. Sometimes she hosts parties, but nothing too lecherous. Thank you. Ripson bowed his head and returned to the group. You're welcome. Let me know how that works out for you. Garrick thrust his hips in an exaggerated fashion before rejoining his crew to barricade the gate for the night. Josephine shook her head in disappointment as they traveled farther into Samine. I wouldn't have thought you to be that sort of man. If you're going to take the words of strangers over how you've seen me act, think of me what you will. Let's get Malam home, then we can go rest ourselves. I could still try to reason with my... No, that's quite all right. We'd be nothing more than a distraction while you reunite with your parents. They're not even aware of the harrowing ordeal you've been through. True. Malam turned to Jahar and Tamilia. How about you two, at least? It might be difficult with a curmudgeon like Ripson, or even Dieter, but Father couldn't possibly say no to the two of you. That does sound nice. Jahar cast a glance at his friend. What do you think? I agree with Ripson. Let him have the night with his parents. We can visit tomorrow. She leaned close to her friend and whispered in his ear. Also, why not use the sashes? He stepped back and gave her a look as she pulled away, holding back from saying more. For a split moment, he thought he saw Vanine instead of Tamilia, standing before him. He shook his head to free himself of the illusion. We could, but that won't help the others. Ripson marched ahead of the group. You two can figure out whatever afterward. Let's give Malam an evening to enjoy time with his family without us bothering him, and bothering them for that matter. He really wants to get you home, Josephine smiled towards the boy. See? He cares. The boy scoffed. He cares to be rid of me. Are you certain, Jaharo? There. Oh, howdy, howdy, Slade. How's it going? I appreciate your offer, but Ripson is right. Let's make sure you have a warm night with your family, and we'll regroup tomorrow. He picked up his pace to catch up with the monk. Then he spun around, walking backwards to call back. You have to be excited to see your family again, right? Malam nodded, before a warm smile slowly appeared across his face. Yes, I never thought I would see them or Samine again, especially so soon. Bum, bum, bum. So that is the end of chapter 31. So that's how's your Saturday so far? It's coming along. I don't know. I'm supposed to do something tonight with a few people, but I don't know. I don't know if that's still going on or not because I haven't heard anything, and that's really about it. I haven't heard anything. It's just kind of like, oh, so we'll see. But yeah, how about yourself? How's it going? Other than just being solid, it's good morning. I seen that you'd been playing that Eartheon game, or however you say it. I'm tempted to get that Ninja Gaiden Rage bound, and then rage, and be upset. But so. All right. Getting number 2 today. Oh, fantastic. You'd been getting proper sleep, and then all of a sudden, now you're the kitten's there. We'll have another kitten, and it'll be all sorts of good. Okay. Ooh. No. Yeah, okay. All right, so yeah, chapter 32, Safely Returned. In a northwestern pocket of the city, on what was once a singular hill protruding higher in the air than the one surrounding it in the far distant past, the Linderett district provided a bubble of soothing quietude in a sea of noise and revelry. Though the fervor and energy of the initial festivities of Saedra's calling had long since subdued, the denizens were clever enough to find reasons to sustain nights of drunken mirth. Like corralling horses into a stable, Dieter and Ripson guided the group with Malam's directions to his home. Many strangers offered drinks and made spirited calls to the group once they realized they were travelers that they politely declined. However, once the group steered into the Linderett district, the bunched buildings of homes, businesses, and taverns gave way to small villas and mansions, which were like isles surrounded by gardens stripped naked due to season. The atmosphere had grown bitterly cold, like winter had become irate at not having completely thrown out fall for the year. Where the closeness of the other sections of Sameen had helped retain a firm grasp on the heat it produced, here, with its grass beginning to coat with frost, the cold had become as much of a citizen as Malam. It snugly made itself at home, as the glow of many hearths could be seen from the streets, attempting to shoo away the weather into finding comfier lodgings elsewhere for the night. The few streets of the district carved through the sleepy part of the city, like streams and brooks meandering through a cozy forest. Beyond the six, now being led by Malam, walking sentries patrolled the area, like hawks starved for their next meal. After a few separate questionings, quickly dispelled by being shown Treka's stone, the group eventually found themselves at the gate of the boys' home. Okay. I've learned to mute my phone. It is an amazing thing to do. Nightfall curtained much of the presentation the homes offered with darkness, and Malam's was no different. What could be seen from the gate, angular cut stones made the house look as though two great big cubes were stacked side by side. Spilling out from the front of one like a wagging tongue, a walkway made of similar stone, lined on both sides by pear trees stripped of their leaves, wound its way toward the street, but was stopped by a sturdy iron gate flanked by tall stone walls. Past the trees on the left side, a patch of frost-coated grass slightly leaned under the soft caress of a steady breeze. The other side, where a few lounge couches hid sheepishly, presented a canopy made of wooden planks and held up by a pillar of stout stones. The fabric that partially covered it weakly waved with the wind. How do we notify your parents, Malam? Dieter eyed the area without a clue on what he needed to possibly find. You could lift me up and I'll climb over the gate. Malam gripped the bars of the gate until his fingers numbed to the touch of cold iron. I could simply toss you over. Ripson moved toward the boy, who reflexively jumped away. He defiantly stared at the monk. Toss yourself over. Jarl and Tamelia let out a chuckle, but stopped when the monk shot the pair a nasty glare. What a sorry lot you all are. Josephine stepped up to the gate and inhaled deeply. Hey, Malam's father, Malam's mother, maybe even Malam's milk mother, hello! The others looked about their surroundings aghast. Individually, they began to wonder whether the guards or Malam's family would reach them first. They did not have to wait long for their unspoken questions to be answered, as three guards with spears drawn and pointed readily at the group arrived within moments of each other. What's with this racket? We take a few steps in the other direction and, to perform our duties and patrol the district, and the moment we're out of sight, you start shouting your heads off, trying to scream away. Let me read this again, because I am trying too hard to read fast instead of actually just reading things. What's with this racket? We take a few steps in the other direction, to perform our duties and patrol the district, and the moment we're out of eyesight, you start shouting your heads off, trying to scream away the coming winter. The speaking sentry gave his compatriots an incredulous look. Apologies, Milner. We were trying to get noticed by my parents. Better than climbing the gate and causing more alarm, I guess. Malam shrugged as he caught sight of a very obvious wink from Josephine. The tired-looking guard imagined the act and snorted. It would have made for a more spirited approach on our end. See? That's why I was shouting. It's not like we need that sort of trouble. She nudged her husband with her forearm as she pleaded the validity of her decision. Certainly a way to consider it. Dieter met his wife's forearm with his own. Well, with you here, how about lifting me over so I can let them know I'm home, please? Malam remained by the gate, motioning for Milner to help. Asking the city's men to trespass, and so politely to boot? One of the other guards interjected. Right? Milner moved to Malam's side. He interlocked his fingers, offering a moderately wide platform with his hands for him. Make it quick. Springing into action, the light-footed boy hopped onto the offered surface and, with a little help from being propelled upward, Malam grabbed the top of the gate and cleared the obstacle. Swiftly he descended, and the moment he made contact with the stony pathway, rolled into the grass. Once in the grass, he bounced to his feet and turned to face the others, jokingly bowing in response. Flew like a bird, but graceful like a fallen stone. Thank you. Malam mockingly bowed to Milner before glancing back toward his home. Maybe you're right. Let's make my invitation for staying wait until tomorrow. We'll be all right. Tamilia motioned for him to go see his parents. We'll stop by after visiting Saedra's shrine. We should have plenty of time. Jaharl adjusted his gloves as he stretched his fingers. That is the hope. Do you want this back? He tugged at the cloak that had been given to him when they first met. No, that's fine. This new one is working well enough for me. Okay. Thank you all, truly. Your kindness will be repaid, I promise. Malam inhaled deeply and held his breath for a moment, and hesitated. He squeezed his grip on the cloak a little tighter. Do you think I smell differently now? Everyone near the gate collectively exchanged questioning glances before Milner spoke up. Did you pass gas or something? Is that a fart joke? The boy's figure loosened a bit as he shook his head. He pointed at the Maharian. No, simply asking a friend. After realizing what he was asking, Jaharl spoke up. No, Malam. I don't think so. I'm happy to hear that, he smiled. Thank you. Once he had finished speaking, he spun around and disappeared into the darkness of his family's garden, without waiting for anyone else to respond. Like a dart thrown, he flew directly to his home, never once looking back. His sights were set on getting inside and sleeping in the comfort of his own bed again. Guess he's a little more excited to be home than he was letting on. Josephine smiled as she caught a glimpse of the same grouchy appearance Ripson usually wore. Not so moved by his return home, are you? Not in the least. The monk turned his head in the direction from which they came. How am I not surprised? She shook her head as she walked past. She shook her head as he walked past. And you, what did he mean by that? Jaharl scratched at the side of his neck and yawned. Nothing, just something from a conversation we had a couple days ago. Nothing, huh? Ripson stopped beside the guard who had helped Malam. Milner, correct? It is. Do be careful of that boy. That demonstration makes me think he'd be better served living as a thief than whatever it is his family does. Milner grinned. I doubt that. Thieving in the night isn't what I'd be concerned about with that family. A lot more creative and flagrant crimes at your fingertips when you're that rich. The monk grunted. Well, he'll probably have some explaining to do to his parents sneaking in like that. The 5 of you ought to find some lodgings, though. Loitering about, especially around here in the Linderett district, would force us to go about our duty a little more aggressively. He looked over the group before glancing at his fellow guards. Well, thank you for not starting by being more aggressive. Josephine gave a small acknowledging bow. Had I not recognized Malam, it easily could have. We've heard some trouble been unfolding in the city. There has. A lot of street kids coming from who knows where, forming gangs and causing mayhem. Been that way since the calling places. We're even hearing people claim the Cricker are responsible for some of these gruesome acts. The 5 traded gestures and looks before Dieter spoke up. The Cricker? Not from Sameen, huh? He tipped his helmet to scratch around his ear. It's an old wives' tale. They're nasty little creatures, said to snatch misbehaving children in the night and whisk them away to the Carhartts to do horrible things to them. Sounds like some of the things we've heard all throughout Parale. Dieter glanced at his wife, who nodded in agreement. You folks not from the kingdom? Milner surveyed the travelers before him a little more carefully. We are not. We are not. The farmer wagged a finger at himself and his wife and crossed his arms. The monk stepped forward with the document given to him by Garrick. This may clarify who we are. I see. The sentry held up the wooden block. This isn't necessary, but helps reinforce the idea that you are honest folk or damned brazen thieves. Not hardly on the latter. We stick out too much to be good ones. Ripson had accepted the documents back. Well, allow Liana and her lantern to guide you safely to your destination tonight, but be quick about it. Would hate to hear that something happened to you out here on these streets, even if you look like you can take care of yourselves. Milner motioned for the other guards to disperse as they left the group alone on the streets of the Linderett district. The group voiced their thanks to the departing guards. When they were alone, the monk motioned for the others to follow as he briskly started walking again. Come on, I know a place to stay. Without protest, the four shadowed the monk's pace through the narrow, winding alleys of Samine, avoiding the main street cutting east to west. They wandered by crowded apartments where families were gathered, chatting and relaxing after their labor-filled day. The group kept to themselves as they passed through the area. The road splintered to the left and right repeatedly, but they stayed focused on wherever the monk was leading them. Despite all the cloistered buildings, the cold stealthily began to permeate through the alleys, like an invisible fog billowing from the sea and sky. Smoke from cooked fires obfuscated the sheet of stars above, but the chill shrugged off the city's counter and continued to settle into the very stones of the city, the very stones of the roads and the buildings. After some time, the group stopped in front of a wide building filled with a hum of energy, dwarfing most of the surrounding structures, like a great beacon welcoming those who could afford its warmth and shelter. The building next to it projected a similar warmth, but also a strong aroma of perfumes and incenses. A brothel? Dieter shot a sour look at Ripson. You've been fairly tone-deaf ever since we arrived here. Are you certain you're all right? For from where I stand, you'd be troubled by the judgment I'd pass. Well, I guess it is in my favor, then, that you do not possess that power. Josephine laughed while her husband grumbled. Dear, let him explain himself before you jump to conclusions. Thank you. The building next to it is a brothel, but we have no business with them. The monk pointed at the building directly in front of them. This is Sigdag's Tavern. A wild place, but we'll be able to stay here without issue. It'll also serve as a nice reprieve after the days we've had since Faladne. Dieter and I certainly have had more bad nights than comfortable ones since we left home. If it can be cozy despite the loud partying, that's fine by me. Her husband frowned and crossed his arms. We'll have to sleep like stones buried in the dirt if we want to get a proper night's rest here. It'll be noise up front, but the noise doesn't travel. Trust me. And it would be easier than trying to find cheap and proper lodging so late. We'd likely be at their mercy, Josephine chimed in. Exactly. The monk turned to the younger pair. Any objections from you two? Tamelia spoke first as Jaharl stifled a yawn. It looks a lot busier than that place we stayed at in Faladne. Are you sure it won't be too distracting? I promise. There are 3 levels to this place, and it goes a lot further back than what we can see now. If that's the truth of the matter, let's go inside. I'm getting cold and sleepy. Jaharl yawned again as he stepped toward the tavern before them. All right. So, that is the end of chapter 32. Whew, 32. And then, yeah. All right. So, yeah. Malam gets home. It's nighttime, so it's like, okay, yeah, we'll meet up again. So, I don't know why my camera keeps on flickering. I don't know. This thing is... I got this new camera, and it doesn't feel like it's any better. It's annoying me is what it's doing. Stop flickering, camera. Yeah, see, it keeps on shuttering. And I have tried messing with options on this thing. I don't know. I don't know. Anyways, all right, so that is chapter 32. I'm going to go back real quick because I totally forgot to do these. So, chapter 30, there's only 3 things anyways. Chapter 31, there was a mention of Blessed Light, which is another name for Saedra's Calling, or the Yellow Comet. The Colgan Sea is the sea to the west of Perail, deep and treacherous waters. That is this thing over here, which a little note about it. Yeah, the Colgan Sea. You can kind of see a tiny little sliver of it, and then also up top. So that was for 31, and then chapter 32. The Cricker is a mythic creature. According to legends, a grotesque creature created to eat humans. Said to prowl the forests near Sameen. They have regained notoriety in recent seasons in Sameen, as there has been a massive uptick in homelessness, particularly among children and teenagers. Thin, sickly creatures with a long snout that ends in a sucker, like some sort of bloodsucker the size of a large dog, is the general description people have given them as of late. Yeah, so that is the Cricker. The Cricker. They are gross sounding. So, but yeah, that was the only one for that. And then there are the last entries for the index are all for chapter 33, which yeah, that'll be nice to get that, because yeah, we're pretty close to the end of this book. Oh my goodness, how exciting! It's super exciting. So it would help if I actually, how about this? Oh, look, there we go. That's how much is left. That tiny little bit. Isn't that exciting? I think so. Okay. Chapter 33, Into the Night. Sigdag's tavern, though wide from the view outside, was more the shape of a massive hall that stretched farther and farther back away from the entrance. Many shapes and sizes of tables littered the main area, with most of the chairs accompanied by someone, whether in a group or not, drinking. Some tables held games of dice or cards, like stones and spades. Others provided enough surface area for people to use them as a stage as they retold events of the day, or some tale of the past. Some were even kind enough to use props, like by jamming knives into the tabletop. Pockets, not simply a single table, but clusters of them, sang merrily a harvest song, which clashed with an old war tune a particularly rough-looking group of haggardly old men were belting out. However, everyone happily ignored what everyone else wanted through drink and in the company of their own friends. Buzzing from the tables to the 3 bars built into the sides of the hall, barmaids darted like bees collecting nectar. They flashed a smile here, a wink there, a twirl to reveal some thigh when space allowed, and if the patron was attractive or wealthy, enough to have earned it. All they did to keep spirits high and to be like the divine, turning the patron's money into drink. A few, upon noticing the group, but more so the monk leading them, gave a nod or a wave in acknowledgement of his presence. He offered the same small gesture in stride, as he led the others deeper into the hall toward a gravelly but energetic voice that did less to rise above the bubbling din, and stuck out more due to its distinctive sound and the man's accent. Bastards and cowards, all of them. The Malgean couldn't drown enough of those damned fools, even if they dove in headfirst with stones lining their pockets to touch the bottom. The mound of a man, who was currently bartending, grabbed the empty mug of a nearby patron and filled it, spilling some beer as he did. The bartender chuckled to himself as he brought his sleeve over the mess to mop it up, before flashing a smirk of misaligned teeth and handing the drink to the drunk. A lot easier cleaning spilt beer than blood, I wager. The patron took a hearty swig of his drink. Not really. Blood you let nature do her work. Not like those Alrenian bastards would ever think of paying for cleanup. Sigdag scratched his neck. his brow furrowed briefly, but smoothed at the sight of the monk nearing his bar. And you Kolugite, what reason you got shadowing the very boards of my poor tavern floor on this fine evening? Ripson held back a grin and approached the bar without a stutter. Only after stopping directly in front of Sigdag did the monk hold his right hand in a fist up to his cheek as a salute, and received one in kind from the bartender. Do you ever let anyone else work behind there, or does your tongue have to flicker and flit like a fish yanked out of the waters to earn that privilege? If you ever wanted to see that sort of thing, I could call Trissy over at Legaea's. I can call Trissy over at Legaea's. Sigdag raised a massive arm and pointed to his left, but his offer was turned down with a wave from the monk. What? Atumu wouldn't mind. Glad you think you can speak for my god, but I'll decline. The bartender snorted. Always so serious, Ripson. I swear on the blood of my mother my mother lost when she slipped me into this world. If I didn't know you were a Kolug, I'd think you were one of those damned Alrenians. Why did that spell that wrong? Always so serious about your damn duties. We can't all succumb to our more base desires. Isn't that what your god demands? The owner grinned wickedly, revealing his teeth. That we're nothing more than animals, so act like it. What mirth Ripson had expressed previously quickly evaporated, and his usual stern countenance took hold again. I won't recount my monastery's history, but those fresh scars are still healing. Brothers and sisters waged war on each other to ensure the answer to Atumu's reasoning was more than what you're saying. Fair enough. Sigdag saluted to the monk once more before allowing his attention to drift to the group behind him. And when were you going to introduce me to your wary-looking entourage? If you needed some extra coin for the monastery's coffers, helping me shuffle the drunks off to bed in the streets could have worked better than acting like some sort of mercenary marching all over Parale. I pay well, and looking at them, probably a whole lot better. Better than those damned Alrenians, at least, huh? Ripson allowed a smile to crease his features once more. You're damned right. The bartender slammed his fist onto the bar, causing the drinks nearby to jostle in place, threatening to spill their contents. Upon a second glance, the aged man spied the sashes worn by Jahar and Tamilia. A bit late to the party, you two. That much trouble that you had to drag your own grandparents and this burly oaf with you? You could say that, despite his sleepy demeanor. I was going to be on because I said I saw the sleepy. Okay, you could say that. Despite his sleepy demeanor, Jahar shot off his answer without any contemplation, while he and his friend reflexively hid their sashes from Ripson's prying gaze. And what's... you don't worry about it. Sigdag belted out a hearty laugh at his old friend before continuing. Straight to the point with you, young man. I can appreciate that. But you look well worn over. And what do you have to say about your travels so far, young lady? Young lady? Tamilia eyed the grizzled man with a slight squint. Well, for one, they aren't our grandparents. We all sort of came together as Jahar and I were heading west from Mahri. Ooh, bit of fire in you. You're one of the fun ones, aren't you? She looked him up and down. Oh, dip your head in honey. Ain't that something? Well, I guess tardiness can be a blessing all the same as being hurried. If only my poor old mother lived to see this day so she could realize the error of her ways and rear in poor, simple me. Sigdag bent his head downward in reverence. However, he sneaked a short peek at the group and jerked his head up, revealing another, much wider and toothier grin. Who am I kidding? That whore of a woman. If given the chance to rise from the grave to live again, if she'd only admitted I crawled out of her womb, she'd deny it. She'd tell every tree, rock and fool who'd listen, that I slithered out like some unforeseen turd. Jarl cracked a smile and tried to suppress a laugh at the image that sprung from his mind from the bartender's more colorful expressions. He dismissed some of the questioning glances from the others with a brief wave of his hand. The bartender's grin grew as a hushed snicker escaped through his teeth. There we go. Gods be helped, Ripson. If these others with you were as wooden as you, I'd be wondering who's putting what in the water out there by Wallerin. The monk rubbed the top of his bald head with an open palm. For as much as you talk, I'm surprised you don't have better way with words, Sigdag. An over-exaggerated gasp punctured the air, causing the patrons to turn to the source of the sound. The bartender slapped his massive chest with his left hand before following it with his right. Then he sloppily stepped backward until he hit the back of a barrel. Until his back hit a barrel of beer, which nearly caused the rack to topple over him. He carried on unfazed. I'm wounded. Daggers for words have surely pierced my breast, seeking to drink straight from my heart. Ripson, what has spurred you on to turn so venomous with your words, like a viper waiting in the grass for an innocent man, like myself, to sink your sharp fangs into my supple flesh? What am I doing? Deadpanned, the monk's expression remained unmoved by the performance. Stow the theatrics, friend. If I wanted to see that, I'd go back to Flodden and wait for whatever stage play the Moon Troupe is planning. The owner, without missing a beat, turned to the others, mainly toward the two Mahrians, to voice his alleged disappointment. Shame, you know. A shame. You know, there are plenty of other troops in the Empire. Some have these great big buildings, much bigger than this hall here, and they have entertainment all year round. A day show with a crew and a different one at night. It led to 2 different shows. Those night ones can get wild, but the better shows happen in those smaller places. A whole lot more intimate. Is this why you brought us here, Ripson? Does this man offer intimate shows that Wallerin and Flonne don't? Josephine reassuringly patted the monk's broad shoulders. He bristled as he slowly turned to the older woman, while Sigdag barked with laughter. We already went over this. I trust Sigdag to offer us a place this late hour, without haggling or cheating us out of our money. Tears welled up in the rugged older man's eyes. To think I could be trusted for lodging at this late stage of my life, and by a man of faith and estranged friends. Life has a funny way of working itself out the way it does. Both Dieter and Jaharl simultaneously shot off questions of Sigdag's curious statement. About Sigdag's curious statement. What does that entail? Do you mean like fate? The two exchanged looks as Sigdag bounced glances from one to the other. The young man motioned for the farmer to ask again, which earned a nod of appreciation for the act of deference. Dieter repeated his question with a piercing gaze that the others weren't entirely certain was intentional or not. Not like it's a secret to your traveling monk friend, nor to my regular patrons, but you're standing in the company and fine establishment of Sigdag Tarlane, or to the uncultured Sigdag the Iron Mull. I was a mercenary. First, got sold off to a band of brigands called themselves Wickers. Just that, Wickers. Damned if I could tell you why. But I was sold to feed my brothers and sisters. At least that's what they told me. Didn't get to know my blood family, so I grew up harvesting blood from strangers. Left that group after a disagreement on spoils and joined another, the Wolves of Winter's Hollow. Made ourselves quite the name and quite the fortune. Planted enough seed and fear along our path to make my way over here. I'd be a liar if I could tell you exactly how I came to Perail. What I do know is that those Clolites could eat a plank of wood whole and shit out a splinter with how tight-assed they are. Otherwise, I probably would have stayed there. The group turned to catch the elderly couple's response to the former mercenary's remarks. Much like Ripson, Dieter remained stone-faced as his wife frowned for only a fleeting moment. Sigdag did not ignore their reactions and grabbed a couple of wooden cups and filled them with beer. I take it you folks hail from Clow Hall or somewhere near? Here, I wasn't trying to badmouth a fellow traveler's homeland. Could have simply been me asking for too much too often. Josephine grabbed the cups and thanked the energetic bartender. She passed one to her husband, who took it, but did not make an effort to drink it. She shrugged and sipped on the offering. If anything, I'd much rather be told to my face than to hear it from a different source. He snatched an empty cup and filled it for himself. After hearing Dieter's remark, he downed his drink and beamed a smile. Small wonder you travel with these folks, Ripson. We must have fallen from the same branch somewhere. I can't place my maul quite on it, but I'd wager you and me, or at least our families, were cut from the same quarry long ago. The farmer exhaled sharply through his nostrils before tilting his cup toward the bartender, then gulping down his drink. Perhaps every stone is shaped by its surroundings. It is, it is. Sigdag nodded solemnly. Nature's a cruel mistress, and you can either like it or fight back. Truly. Dieter drank air from his now empty cup. The talkative bartender leaned to his right and eyed one of his barmaids sitting and grinding on one of his patrons' laps. His chest swelled as he inhaled deeply. Amira! Fuck 'em on your own time. Not like some bitch and heat in the alleyway here. Go to Legaea's, if that's how you want to act. I'm paying you to serve people drinks, not offer yourself on tap. For crying out loud, the table next to you is drier than the Rowenian desert. Get to it. Amira leapt from the man's lap, hitting her knees on the underneath portion of the table and causing some of the drinks to topple. Hurriedly, she apologized and tried to salvage the remaining drinks before rushing over to one of the sidebars. Once there, another barmaid gave her more drinks to replace the spilt ones and some rags to clean up the mess. After watching this unfold, Sigdag returned his attention back to the group in front of him, shaking his head. Now, back to the fine folks in front of me. I can give you a couple rooms, since the ones I usually let Ripson use is a wee bit small for all 5 of you. We would appreciate that. The monk bowed his head gratefully. The bartender snapped his fingers and whistled. The nearest barmaid, Sarah, darted to his side. He handed her a ring of keys and whispered instructions into her ear. After casting a glance toward Amira, he spoke quickly to the group. Enjoy your sleep. If you need anything, I'll be here. After all, someone's got to show these boys how to drink. Ripson and Sigdag exchanged a parting salute before the monk and the others followed Sarah to a set of stairs behind the main bar. Upon arriving on the second story, the group entered a realm of darkness. Fumbling about, the barmaid retrieved a candle from a basket filled with them. I'll be back. Gonna light this first. With that, she went downstairs, shortly returning with a glowing beacon to guide them. Quietly, they trekked down the hall until they reached another set of stairs. They climbed these without trouble. There is another set of candles here. Grab one for yourselves. Ripson grabbed one for himself before passing one to everyone else. Zara passed her flame onto the other candles. 6 lights lit the way as they walked for a little while longer. Soon enough, they stopped at a plain door with a yellow circle painted on it. This one is for the young pair. Sarah unlocked it, then moved to the next door. She did the same for it as well as the next one after. The middle one is for the Clolites. The last one is your usual room, Ripson. Thank you, Zara. I will see you all in the morning. Ripson immediately retreated to his room. Good night, you two. Dear, let's go. Josephine glanced at her husband, who silently agreed with her. The pair of farmers followed the monk's example and entered into their room, leaving the 3 in the hallway. If you need anything else, just come down. The barmaid pivoted and began walking back to the bar before a thought crossed her mind that she wanted to express. Sigdag may be prickly, but his heart is his biggest muscle. The glow of her candlelight descended. Jaharl and Tamelia entered their room. In the dim illumination, the small rectangular room offered its contents for viewing openly. In the corner farthest from the door, a small bed with modest beddings, beckoning the newcomers to rest, or more. In the opposite corner, a small table and a less than sturdy-looking chair welcomed them, a place to do some semblance of academic work or thinking. The pair carefully placed their candles on the table and removed their bags and boots. Then they removed their outer clothes and cloaks and set them on the chair carefully, sighing in relief to be completely out of the damp chill. They took off their sashes and hung them on the back of the seat. I honestly don't even talk about them at all now. Tamelia clenched her right hand into a tight fist, tight enough her fingers dug deep into her palm, making her less than ready to punch anything or anyone. We need to, though. All the buzzing in the hive isn't going to help us find them. Amongst the shadows flickering from the dancing of the candlelight's illumination, she gritted her teeth and squinted hard as she pursed her lips. I still think they went to Pyrrell Castletown. They must have went there before going to Samine. They're probably staying with Cyrus and what was bitterness snapped into anger as she raised her voice into a raspy, sharp whisper. You think they'd wander off and not do the calling? Leave us to fret without a word? Completely disregard the duty to mess around in Perel Castletown? She matched her harsh tone with his own. Do you know how Vanine is? She gets her mind set on something, and away she goes. Aye, and that's why I could never get along with the bitch. Jaharo forced out a dry laugh. Do you want to just give up looking for them? She threw her hands up in the air. I didn't say anything like that. We'll get the damned blessing. We'll go to the capital afterward. We'll find them and we'll drag those two idiots home. Buy their cloaks if we have to. I guess that settles that, then. It does. Now go dip your head in honey. Extinguishing her candle on the table, she rushed over to bed with a lithe set of movements. She nestled herself under the blankets. I call the bed first. We can switch halfway through the night. He simply shook his head. That's fine. I could probably fall asleep on a rock now if I wanted. He snuffed out his own candle and lowered himself into a sitting position with his lower back pressed against the door. His right side snugly braced against the wall. Despite the hard services, they felt like a nurturing hug, and before as much as an utterance from his friend or himself, sleep overtook the young man. And now it is time for a sleep sequence. A dream or a memory, perhaps. Above, stars speckled the sky, which churned slowly from dusk to night. The four lounged about in the clearing, with a couple burning pitch torches as they waited. Aching from toiling in the various mountainside gardens, they all sat in the grass, each with a cup of mead they were savoring. Ain't nothing like a good drink with friends on a cool night, eh? Hardwin held up his cup in a toast, which was met with half-hearted responses from the other three. Oh, come on, you act like today was harder than any other day. Shush and come here and be my rock. Vanine leaned back with a tired smile on her face as she stretched out her arms. Quick to his feet and bounding over to her side, Hardwin plopped himself down and wrapped a comforting arm around his betrothed. Temelia's gaze loosely met Jaharl's as she rolled her eyes at the other pairs' coddling of one another. He masked a snort by rubbing his nose and sharply exhaling through his nostrils. Hardwin gave his friend a glance that was a mixture of concern and suspicion. You okay there? Yeah, he nodded. Felt like I got a bug caught in my nose for a moment. A bug? Vanine looked around the clearing. You'd think these torches would be enough to keep them away. Well, just hold out, Jaharl. We should see it soon enough. Then we can get you back home so the bugs won't feast on your sweet self. Thanks. Jaharl sneered. He finished the remainder of his drink and poured himself some more from the jug they had been given by the village elders to enjoy while they waited to see Saedra's calling. He passed it to Hardwin as he watched his friend fill his cup and Vanine's. Vanine grabbed the jug and jostled it around. Just a little left. You want to finish it off, Tam Tam? You know better. She glared over at the doting pair. Don't call me that. Oh, I'm only teasing. Tease someone else. I'm not in the mood. Trading a quick look with Vanine, Hardwin took the jug and offered it to Amelia. Come on, you heard her. She was only teasing. Don't take it so personally. She snatched the jug and poured the rest of it into her cup, which only filled it up halfway. She set the jug down. You know I hate that nickname. She knows I hate it too. So you two can dip your heads in honey if you're going to act like it's only a joke. Hardwin's shoulders slumped as he forced out a sigh. Then he shot a look to Jaharl for support. You two are on your own. I've stopped counting the times she's told both of you to not call her that. Really, buddy? He slipped his arm from under Vanine and moved over to his friend standing over him. Are you still upset all about this? He didn't bother to stand up. No. You sure? Hardwin kicked at Jaharl's feet. You're the one always going on and on about fate. Shouldn't you be happy that Vanine and I are fated to go on Sage's calling? His needling caused Jaharl to jump to his feet. I told you, it has nothing to do with anything other than I'm tired of hearing Temelia getting riled up. She's asked us not to call her that. I'd wonder if you'd have problems understanding simple instructions, but I don't think that's quite it. What is all that buzzing supposed to mean? The two glared at one another, only an arm's length apart. Before any more heated words or actions came to fruition, Vanine slipped in between the pair. She forcefully guided her husband to be away from Jarl. Boys, calm yourselves. You're acting like children fighting over the last piece of honeyed wildberry pie. Tamelia helped lead Jarl away from the other two. When they were some distance away, she ripped into him through clenched teeth. What's your damn problem? I'm the one she's goading. Why are you acting the fool? He snapped a glare at her before redirecting his angered expression back toward Hardwin. You know why. She grimaced as she looked away for a moment before slapping him in the chest. The honey's been made, Jarl. All you're going to accomplish in kicking that nest is making a lot of bees mad. Maybe they'll see the right of it. She derided his answer with a sharp grunt. What you want isn't what's right. They'll figure it out for themselves, sooner or later. Nothing we can say or do is going to change that. The two friends exchanged a hurried glimpse in the silent moment. Passionate fury met resigned disappointment as more and more stars appeared above to witness everything in the lands below. Did he cool off over there, Tamelia? She paused for a moment, searching Jarl's eyes for an answer. Aye, how about that oath of yours? Vanine snickered, smiling widely as she did, before she playfully slapped Hardwin in the chest with the back of her hand. Aye, he's fine. The two pairs slowly drifted together near the center of the clearing. Hardwin extended a hand as an apology, and, right as Jarl reached out to accept, he clasped the open hand and yanked his friend close to him. He put Jarl in a headlock and rubbed his knuckles on his friend's head. Squirming free, Jarl pushed away from his friend. As he did, he looked upward and caught sight of the yellow comet, the harbinger of his jealousy, his anger. Begrudgingly, he lowered his head in deference to the fate Saedra's calling heralded. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. All right. Back from the memory. Like the quick drawing of a curtain, sleep left Jarl as he attentively snapped awake. He turned to the left and then the right as his stiff neck and upper back protested his stirring. A low groan burped from the bottom of his throat as he raised his arms to stretch. He moved his legs around, but refrained from kicking about. Blinked and I'm back awake. Did I even fall asleep, or did I only think of that night? Tamelia? He kept his voice low and waited for her response. When none came, he repeated itself in the same hushed tone. Tamelia? Only silence answered him. I guess I've been asleep for a little while, or she's mad at me for dozing off. He leisurely brought himself to his feet with the creaking sounds of his body thanking him for leaving his poor sleeping location. However long he may have slept must have been plenty, as he didn't feel weary from the lack of recent sleep or the recent travels in the cold. He clumsily went about putting on his outer clothes to be more presentable. Once ready, he, as stealthily as he could muster, slipped out into the equally dark hallway. Great. I'll have to be careful. I don't want to fall down those stairs. Placing a hand on the wall as a brace, he methodically stepped forward in anticipation of the drop. After a short while, he arrived and descended the stairs in a similar manner. Heading downward, he eventually reached the point of seeing the dim glow of the lights of the tavern portion of the building. With the source of light aiding his movements, he walked at a more confident pace. After climbing down those stairs and entering the tavern hall proper, he realized only a few of the lanterns closest to the bar were lit. The front portion of the hall had darkened, and the revelry from earlier had long since ceased. He took a few steps into the tavern before noticing Sigdag sitting at a small table across from Ripson. All ready, huh? The monk waved to the Marian before turning back to his friend. The tavern owner looked over his shoulder before motioning for the young man to join them at the table. Come, take a seat. You're not interrupting anything. Jarl caught the chair being pushed out in front of him as he neared the table. As soon as he sat down, he was handed a cup of ale, which he inspected thoroughly. It's not poison, boy. Drink up. Sigdag's goading worked as he watched him drink the cup dry. See? It'll put hair on your chest and everywhere else the landys fancy. You certain about that? Ripson finished his own drink and set his cup to the side. Just because you're as hairless as the day you were born doesn't mean much. You're a monk anyways. Anyway, don't you spend your nights and days praying and groveling? What do you know of women folk? Always straight to my faith, huh? Not quite as strong of an insult to go for your balls. And it's not like you haven't heard all of that I've had to say. Oh, that's okay. Not quite as strong of an insult to go for your balls. And it's not like you haven't heard all that I've had to say about that sort of thing anyway. Sigdag belched. In the corner of his eyes, he caught Jaharl shifting uneasily in his seat. Oh, you two. The gods aren't going to come here and whisk you away for being naughty. If they did, I'd think even less of them. It's not that. And Jaharl pushed the empty cup back and forth in front of him, like a cat pawing at a piece of string. Well, out with it. Which gods have you by the tongue and balls that you dare not utter their names? The tavern owner grinned stupidly as he stared at the young man in effort to coax an answer out of him. Thoughts tumbled in his head. He swallowed and refocused. I believe in fate, not so much the gods. And Sigdag and Ripson exchanged looks as if passing mental notes between each other. Then, with a strange curiosity emblazoned in his eyes, the burly tavern owner leaned close to the Morphrian. A loser way of thinking if I've ever heard one. How can you go through life only taking what's offered? I could give you poison, tell you to drink it, or you'll die where you sit, and you'd drink it, wouldn't you? Sudden hotness flushed Charles' cheeks. Not at all. Really? I don't think he would say it like that. Really? That'd probably be really. Really? Yeah, that'd probably be really. The word oozed out of the man's mouth. Sigdag then reached into one of his sleeves and pulled out a small cloth pouch of off-white. Inside its folds, it opened up to reveal a collection of purple to black powdered round pills that had stained the pouch. Those are made from a Calaran tundra flower. They could bring down a unit of men easily if you sneaked one into their cooking pots. Dinner time rolls around, and they'll sleep the endless sleep before the food's gone halfway through their stomach. Through their stomachs. Jarl studied the pills before trading looks with the two older men. That's good to know, but I don't want anything to do with that. For starters, I could have already poisoned you, but you must trust Ripson and strangers like me a whole lot more than you ought to. Sigdag flashed a menacing smile as the young man recoiled in his seat. With a curt push, the former mercenary shoved the poisons closer. Now, eat one of them, or I'll kill you where you sit. Absolutely not. He barely got the words out before he was forced back from the monk, kicking his chair, causing him to tumble out of his seat, while avoiding the heavy hand of Sigdag reaching out to grab him. He sprung to his feet and shot a glare at the monk. Ripson, help! Well, you're on your own. The monk stayed seated as the retired mercenary grumbled, rising to his feet. Jarl bent down to grab the chair he had been sitting on, to use it to defend himself. But the moment he realized how large the owner was compared to himself, another idea sprang into his mind. He feinted, bracing himself with the chair, and tossed it at the approaching menace's legs. Without seeing the results of his throw, he turned and heard a growl as he dashed to the other side of a nearby table. What's this drunk's issue? Chair table? You're going to have to be more serious than that. With a surge of speed and might, Sigdag palmed the edge of the table Jaharl was using to distance himself and flung it to the side with little effort. Leaping over another table, the Myrian rushed toward the stairs. However, he thought otherwise and darted directly for the bar, with the tavern owner not far behind. Upon reaching his destination, he planted a hand on it and cleared it neatly. Once over, he immediately began looking for a weapon to arm himself. Come on, there's got to be something here. Knife, a pole, something. Hurriedly groping in the darkened area, his hands shook as the sounds of Sigdag's steps grew heavier and louder. Then, after fumbling past some empty cups and bottles, his hands found the handle of a wood-cutting axe. He shot up and stood straight, wielding the weapon in both hands, readying a swing. Another step and I'll cleave your head from your neck. The barreling mass stopped in his tracks. His eyes remained piercing as he gazed through his target. A moment later, he blinked, and the bloodlust vanished entirely. A mirthful wisp began to dance in his eyes. Had him going there for a moment, Ripson. Jaharl gripped the handle so hard his hands began to cramp. Come sit with us, boy. I was fucking with you. Sigdag laughed heartily as he made his way back to his seat. What? Dumbfounded, Jarl lowered his weapon, slackening his stance. I won't harm you, promise. Clean me your mess and put the old girl back in her hiding place before you get back over here. You don't know anything about it, and neither do the city guards. Cautiously, the young man placed the weapon back and set the cups in place to cover its hiding spot. After cleaning the area, he exited from behind the bar and slowly drifted toward the pair, keeping a table between them. This time, it was the monk who beckoned him to take a seat. It's fine, Sigdag, in his own simple way, was making a point. He sharply pointed at the massive man. You call that madness a point? The tavern owner pointed at the toppled chair. Pick up the damn thing. Pick up the damn thing. I swear on the lives of my children and this building that I won't harm you. Like the monk said, I was making a point. Still straining a stony gaze at the momentary maniac, he set the chair upright with some space between it and the table and sat down. Using your words would have been example enough? Hardly. The two exchanged looks before he continued. Words are not the act. You say you believe in fate, but if I wanted to, holding that axe alone wouldn't have saved you. Jarl's eyes narrowed. What are you getting at? That you ought to attack life in every situation you can with the same defiance you just showed me. Don't bury yourself in overthinking it. Sigdag leaned closer to the young man and locked eyes. What? Didn't think I would have guessed that about you? The Mavrian lowered his head, but did not say anything. Believe me. Look, see it in my own eyes. I've watched countless men, women, and children fall to arrows and blades, believing that was their lot in life. To water the thirsty soil with their blood and be meals for the ravens and the wolves. He raised his head. But not every decision is life or death. No, it's not. You're right. But as life creeps by, more ravens and wolves gather. Not ones to tear your guts into morsels and giblets, but ones that'll feast on your spirit. Each choice made feeds or starves the damn things, and you'll be nothing more than an offering strung up by your choices if you don't act. Grow old enough, you'll notice it in everyone you meet. Ain't too many sadder things in life than a spirit crushed. May as well slit your own throat at that point. Well, that'll take a look at yourself in some mirror and act. I appreciate the concern, but I still think telling me instead of acting how you did would have made your point clear enough. Sigdag belted out another hearty laugh. Sometimes the ears, the body, and the mind, they ain't on speaking terms. It's good to get the practice, and it's fun to be a maniac every now and again. Shared laughter between the tavern owner and Ripson rippled through the hall. Eventually coaxed Jarl to chuckle, whether or not he wanted to do so. Before long, Dieter and Josephine appeared from the darkened stairwell, followed shortly by Tamilia. With all of them gathered, the retired mercenary went to his quarters behind the bar, and returned with some bread, which had some berries and nuts dotted throughout. He passed a thick slice to each of them before keeping the last for himself. Not much, but keep you filled till you can get a heartier meal. A murmur of thanks rippled from the five. Now don't go acting excited all at once. He looked at the monk and glanced at the other four before winking at Jarl. Always a good day to be kissed by daylight. Means you got a chance to make things right, or do what you please. I'm not your nagging mother. We can thank the gods for that. Ripson saluted his old friend with a reserved smile. Sigdag returned the gesture, coupled with a jovial grunt. Ain't that the truth? Now go out there and conquer. No use letting the day go to waste. The light of dawn seeped into the tavern, calling the group to begin their day in cold, damp Saemine. Dun, 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 dun. So that is the end of chapter 23, or 23, how about 33? That's the end of chapter 33. Sigdag is my favorite character in the whole thing, and he's in one chapter and not even the whole thing. He is a character. Yeah. I don't know. Dude's a maniac. But I don't know. When I was and just reading some of that, I was just like, man, he is he is a card. index. Last little bit here for the index. So, Chapter 33's index entries. The Kalaran Tundra is a tundra to the extreme northeast of the Alranian Empire, home to an incredibly poisonous flower and other oddities. The flower can only be grown in this small area. When harvested, the potency weakens significantly, but that hasn't stopped many from claiming the poison is strong enough to kill scores of people. So, those are the rumors that it is very poisonous, which is an odd thing, right? A poisonous winter flower. Perhaps there's something to that. Woo. So, the Malgean Sea was referenced, or at least just the Malgean, which is the waters which separate the lands of Bruntil, Clohal, Parail, Ulteo, Rowan, etc., and the Alranian Empire. While travel is feasible, the waters are quite choppy for half the year, which has kept the empire from expanding to its northwest in the direction of Parail. So this is kind of a very pivotal bit of water that kind of keeps their area from getting a lot of trouble, we'll say. Especially now that the Empire has reached this border with the Malgean, because the Malgean was like Koluk and these other places, but they've been taken over by the Empire. So, and then the Wolves of Winter's Hollow was a notorious mercenary band that has plagued the Alranian people for generations. Its origin can be traced back to a famous company led by a man named Berkir. This company helped free the Alranians from occupation. In doing so, they helped in the birth of an empire. The wolves may have retained the brutality, but the Alranian people no longer have love in their hearts for these people, even if they pay them handsomely for their services to keep them busy elsewhere. So there's a bit of a weird dichotomy between the wolves of Winter's Hollow. So, yeah, perhaps at one point they were celebrated as liberators and such, but over time, as the Alranians have become more imperial, they see them kind of like, okay, well, let's see if we can use them for other things and keep them busy while we focus on our own stuff, so they're not pestering us. So, yes. So that is that. That is the end of that. So, ta-da! Yeah. So, yeah, like I said, next week, Sunday, because I work Saturday, we will finish up. That is what's left, that little bit. Some 40-odd pages. I don't even think 40 pages. It's like 38. Yeah, or 37. 38, 37 pages. Exciting. Woohoo. So, thanks for sticking around. Thanks for watching and stuff. And enjoy the rest of your weekend. Toodles. Goodbyes. I will catch yous another time.